Hello, world. It's Saturday morning here in Chicagoland. I hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy today. I would like to welcome you to Why Northwestern International Perspectives. My name is Aaron Zdawczyk. I'm a Senior Associate Director of Admission, and I've been a longtime Director of International Recruitment here at Northwestern. I've been here for now over 16 years. So Northwestern is certainly a big part of my life and my experience. I'm excited to talk to all of you all over the world today. We know that you're tuning in from many countries. At last count, over 70 countries registered for this session. So we're excited to have a broad reach today and really explore a little bit about Northwestern from primarily a student perspective. I'm fortunate in my job to be able to travel around the world and talk about Northwestern, but it's rare that I get to actually have some help and to have students talk about their experience with me. So I'm very excited today to have that opportunity to sort of share this presentation with students who are a part of the Northwestern community, with students who I had the fortune of reviewing their applications at one time. And learning about them in detail, and now have the chance to be, again, members of the same community today. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then I'll continue to introduce the program today. I'm going to start with throwing it over to Karina, who's one of our Global Wildcat coordinators, and she can begin the introductions.
Hi, I'm Karina. I'm a Global Wildcat coordinator at Northwestern. I'm in my second year and I'm studying theater and history. And I'm originally from London, but I grew up moving around a lot. So I know that international school kid life.
Hey, my name's Martin. I was born in Poland, but I lived in Germany for most of my life. I'm also a second year right now in Weinberg School of Arts and Sciences. And I'm studying global health and Middle Eastern studies. And I'm very excited to see you all guys.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a first year. I am in CESP, which is the School of Education and Social Policy. I'm also kind of interested in psychology. I was born in Hong Kong. I grew up in Shanghai, but I'm currently in Taiwan.
In the spirit of this meeting, I would like to start with saying Dobro jutro I dobrodošli, which in my language means good morning and welcome to all of the international students that hopefully are joining us. And I'm Josif Bozovic, coming from Montenegro, and I'm studying biomedical engineering as part of the McCormick School of Engineering.
Wonderful. Thank you for those great introductions, everyone. And we're going to learn a lot more about those students very shortly. We want you to kind of get excited to talk to them and ask them your questions about life at Northwestern. But our plan today is to begin with a little bit of an introduction about the university that I'll give. And I'll spend most of that time talking about kind of just the general place of Northwestern, as well as the academic experience, and a little bit about admission and financial aid. And then, again, we'll open up the remainder of the time, which should be at least 45 minutes or so, or 40 to 45 minutes for the questions. So we want you as students around the world to drive this conversation, to be the ones really helping us explore Northwestern. We want to know your questions. We want to know what you want to know. And you've got such a great range of students here from different places with different experiences, different academic and extracurricular interests. So you're going to have a chance to really get to know a lot more about Northwestern. So that's going to be the plan for today. And then I'll kind of try to guide some of those questions, as well as kind of wrap things up at the end of the hour. So just to get started, again, as I imagine many of you have begun your university search, and you may be thinking about Northwestern. You may have already got some information about Northwestern. But I think hopefully one of the first things you've begun with is, what is it, where is Northwestern, and kind of what is that location experience like? And I think that's where a lot of students around the world begin their questioning as they're looking at the US. Certainly, many people are familiar with East Coast and the West Coast, But as you get into learning about Northwestern, you start to learn about that third coast of the United States, which as we call it, which is the coast of Lake Michigan, one of the Great Lakes in the US, which is where Northwestern is located. We are in the city of Evanston, in the state of Illinois, just north of the great city of Chicago, the third largest city in the United States. And we are on a lakefront campus. I wish I could show it to you right now, but I'm calling or talking to you right now from my house, which is about a couple kilometers south of the campus. I can walk there. I could get there by bike or by public transportation. But overall, when you're talking about the campus, I think there's some important things that you should know. That it starts with this idea that your community experience is going to be a residential one. In fact, you're going to be living on campus with all of the other students, and it's going to be a place that is very exciting to describe, because I think unlike a lot of other American campuses, it's one that has no central quad, no central space. It's kind of a wandering campus, one that from one end to the other is only about a 20-minute walk. It's bordered on one side entirely by water, that's the lake, and on the other side by the city of Evanston. So you can walk across the street and take advantage of this great location, go to a coffee shop or a store, or a restaurant, bookstore, kind of everything that you want kind of in the immediate space is right there for you. But most of the time, you don't even need to leave campus, as you're going to find everything that you need for your life and your academics right there. All of the programs are all intermingled throughout the campus. It's a great mixture of kind of modern and traditional architecture. There's wonderful spaces to relax and hang out, whether it's sitting on the lake or the Shakespeare Garden, which is a garden tucked behind the engineering school, which has plants from the different Shakespeare plays. Or walking along the kind of main street, Sheridan Road, which kind of passes across many of the academic and support buildings. In general, I think students find the campus one of their favorite places in the area. It's this place that really offers them everything they need and inspires them in their academics. There are many traditions associated with the campus, and I think one I always like to share is painting the rock. In fact, there's this big ugly rock in one section of the campus, which is a kind of exactly what it sounds, an ugly rock that gets painted almost every day during the school year. It's a chance for students to express themselves, to express joy, to express grief. It's a tradition where you have to spend the night in front of it, and then in the morning, again, you or your group gets to paint it. And so it's represented many international students and causes over the years. And many personal causes as well. So I love to see what's happening at the Rock, and you can check that out as well. Outside of the campus and outside of that city of Evanston, again, the city of Chicago is a big draw for international students. It's where you, of course, land when you arrive often at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. And it's a city that will really enhance both your social and academic experience. I love Chicago. I didn't grow up here. But again, I moved here almost 20 years ago and wouldn't want to leave. It's really one of my favorite places in the world. It's a city that offers you kind of all the things you'd want in a large city. So those sort of classic entertainment options, whether it's great music or theater, sort of tourist attractions like the Buckingham Fountain or the Bean, a sculpture that we are affectionately named that's in our Millennium Park. It's also got great events, chances to see world-class sporting opportunities, whether it's the Chicago Bulls or watching professional soccer. We've had Champions League soccer come through every summer. So really amazing opportunities there. Major speeches and events, whether it's presidential election opportunities to hear speakers or other major events. So things are always happening in Chicago. From a food scene, you couldn't find a better place. When you talk about the diversity of neighborhoods and people, Chicago is just an amazing place to explore for food. And you'll find, again, places that you just didn't know existed as you begin to explore the city. It's also very easily accessible. Again, you can be in Chicago in about 5 to 10 minutes from the campus using public transportation or even free transportation provided by the university. on a shuttle bus. And it's just a place that, again, will become part of your Northwestern experience. So I think when you think about Northwestern as a whole, and I hope you ask the students about their experience with it, you think about this, I would argue, perfect location between the mix of lakefront campus, the city of Evanston, and then Chicago. Again, what more could you want? Now, in terms of academics, that's, again, another piece that I hope you're thinking very carefully about as you explore university search. And what makes Northwestern special academically is a combination, I think, of structure and calendar. So there's no other university in the US with a particular set of 6 undergraduate schools that we have. You'll find a College of Arts and Sciences with all of the classic majors in natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, as well as many other unique majors that students get interested in, from things like the mathematical methods of the social sciences to environmental sciences and policy, to programs in African studies and Jewish studies. It's really just the hub of the university when it comes to about half of the student body being part of that, as well as, again, so many different programs. Next, you're going to find the School of Engineering. And our School of Engineering is special because of a few things. One is the approach to engineering. We call it whole brain engineering. And this is the idea that we don't want engineers who are simply math and science focused. We want them to have sort of the operation of that other side of the brain where they're interested in design, creativity, art. And that's what is what an engineer expresses, along with that great technical ability. In addition, what's exciting is our engineering program has about 13 different majors. So that means, again, wide variety of programs that you can choose from. And it also includes a sequence in the first year where you're going to get to work on real world projects with real clients. Third, we have the School of Communication, which is where you'll find a lot of those extroverted people. You'll hear from some today. In fact, people who are involved in theater, performance studies, radio, television, film, communication studies, and even the science of communication. This is an amazing place that brings together, I think, a very dynamic discipline of communication from all angles, and a chance to really, again, tell stories throughout the world. You'll also find, sort of with our School of Communication, a separate, entirely separate School of Journalism. This School of Journalism, again, offers students a chance to share their voice, to do that through any media type. So whether you're interested in being online, social media, sort of more traditional forms, whether that's print or television, these are things that you can pursue. The School of Journalism is a place that is also, again, supporting you as a full journalist. So you get to kind of learn all the skills related to kind of a modern day journalist, including all of the technology. You learn how to be an ethical journalist, and you also get real experience. You're guaranteed to have a practical internship in the School of Journalism as part of your academic study in a media company. Next, you'll find the School of Education and Social Policy. Again, chance to hear about that today. It's a place that is full of what we like to call change agents, people interested in helping and changing people, maybe one person at a time as a counselor, or a classroom at a time as a teacher, or a community as a time in some cases, as someone who's interested in social policy. There are also other majors involved there where you're looking at how organizations are led or changed. And it's a place that, again, is very exciting, very dynamic. It's also the school that grows the most during the sort of time of students on campus. In other words, it's a small class to start in the first year, but by the end, it almost triples in size because so many people find the majors in that school so interesting. So you might not know or be as sure about it yet, but again, know that you'll have the chance to explore it as you go. And then finally, our School of Music is a conservatory level approach to music, and it's a place that will give you the chance to practice music, become a professional musician, or to explore music in many different ways. And then what's exciting about this is at Northwestern, you choose one of these 6 schools as your kind of home and in your application. But what you should know is that you can change your mind at any point. You can move between the schools, actually quickly, decide that I don't want to be in arts and science, but I want to be an engineer. I don't want to be an engineer, I want to be a communication student. And you can ask our students about how that's worked for them. It's that simple. There's no other application. It's really just a process of kind of talking to your advisor, figuring out what you want to do. You're also going to have the chance to combine things over these different schools. So again, one of the benefits of Northwestern is you don't have to give up on those other interests. You're going to have a chance to just explore all 6 schools, take classes in all 6 schools, and in fact, create programs across schools. And I think that's what we want you to think about at Northwestern. I want you to think about the important pressing issues that you want to solve or be part of. So whether that's the COVID-19 crisis, that's the refugee crisis, that's the environment, it's gender rights, whatever is important to you, think about how all of these different programs will combine to help you impact that problem, because the world doesn't operate on departments or majors, but operates kind of on big ideas. And I think that's what Northwestern specializes in. And what helps you do that is our calendar, the quarter system, where you're gonna have the chance to take 48 classes over 4 years, which is anywhere from 8 to 16 more than a semester system. The chance to kind of change your mind as you go through these different courses, to build on a foundation, and to use quarters for other experiences. And I think that's the final part of the academic experience that I want to share is, again, that calendar really opens up what we call practical experiences at Northwestern, whether that's research, internships, other international experiences, or in particular entrepreneurial or innovation experiences. So these are things that any student in any major, any program can pursue. And I think that's important to understand. So it doesn't matter if you're studying English or you're studying mechanical engineering or you're studying the violin, any of these areas are open to you. So you can get an internship in the city of Chicago, which has top companies, organizations in any field you're interested in, and you can still stay at your dorm, hang out with your friends, and have that work experience. You can pursue undergraduate research and get funded for it through our Office of Undergraduate Research. So you have a big idea or a deep idea and you want to study it in particular, you can get that help. You want to, again, start a company, create a new application. That's something else that you're going to be able to do through our entrepreneurship center, the Garage, or some of the other entrepreneurship facilities and programs that we have on campus. And then finally, continuing your international journey. It's going to be hard to leave Evanston in Chicago, but again, we support you still to do that. If you want to go on to another country and have another academic or practical experience or do research somewhere else, again, Northwestern is going to support you to do that. As a global university, we have global reach, and we have a lot of initiatives around the world, and we're going to support that and be excited for you to continue that international journey. So those are, again, the key elements, I think, of an academic experience in Northwestern that I wanted to relay. Again, I'm going to save a lot of the fun stuff, the fun extracurricular and student life for our students and for your questions. And I'm just going to end my sort of little introduction here with a little bit about the Admission and Financial Aid Office, just so that, again, you as an international student understand how it works for you, and again, how important it is to Northwestern. As again, I've mentioned the fact that I've been here for 16 years and been part of changing the international community at Northwestern to grow it and diversify it. So at this point, we have over 95, so approaching 100 different countries represented in our undergraduate student population. We're very excited about that. And I think that really tells you a story that what we're able to do is reach such a broad audience because of the appeal of, I hope, the academics and life at Northwestern, but also because of our commitment, I think, to access and to financial aid. We want to make sure that any student around the world has a chance to apply to Northwestern and be here. And I've been very much part of that. I also have a few other colleagues that is a close-knit admission group that focus specifically on international recruitment. So as an international student, you're going to have several resources to talk to us directly, whether it's myself personally or my colleague Christy or my colleague Maddie. They're going to be there for you to talk to you about what it's like to apply from your country, to connect you with a current student, to answer your specific questions about the curriculum in your country. Whether you're taking a national curriculum or you're taking a more international curriculum, something like an advanced placement, an international baccalaureate, a British A-level, French baccalaureate. You're going to have, we know that people come from all different backgrounds, and we want you to understand that we review your application in the context of your experience. So your high school is your high school, your community is your community, and we will look at you in those opportunities. You don't need to do anything else than achieve and do well in your space. We will meet you where you are. We will understand what it means to be a good student in your curriculum. And then from there, we will evaluate you like any other student who applies to Northwestern using the tools available to us in our application process. We allow you to apply using the common application or the coalition application. We expect you to fill out some information about what you do when you're not in school, and that can vary from something very organized to something very unorganized. Again, it varies across the world. We're also going to ask you to tell us about yourself through essays and to have someone else tell us about you through recommendation letters. And then the final piece is we do currently require a standardized test, an SAT or ACT from students, no matter where you are in the world, the US or abroad. And so that is still a requirement. We know it's difficult right now and a little bit challenging to take these tests. So we're going to make sure that we understand that and work with you. And again, understand your score in the context of your experience. For those of you who do not speak English as a first language, or for which English is not your mode of instruction, a language of instruction at your high school, we would also ask that you take an English proficiency exam, whether it is the TOEFL or the IELTS. We are now going to be accepting additional tests, which we'll be explaining on our website coming up in the month of June. But more details will be there to follow, but we'll give you some more choices and options should you need to take an English proficiency exam. Those are, again, the basic things you need for applying for admission. As for financial aid, again, as I mentioned, it's one of the most important things we do here at Northwestern for all of our students, whether they're US or international. We have a need-based financial aid program, which means that we can help the student, no matter what their financial background, afford this university experience. What we do is we ask you to, if you need help, apply for financial aid. When you do that, you'll check yes on your admission application. You will submit additional materials to Northwestern in the form of what's called the CSS profile and some other financial documentation. We will review your application for admission. We will take the fact that you asked for financial aid also into consideration, which is called need aware review. And if we decide to admit you, we will meet your need 100%, meaning we will make sure that you can afford this, that your family contribution is possible, and that the way that we will help you is through all grants, or what we call grants or scholarships, meaning you will not have any loan debt, you will not have any work as part of your financial aid package. It will be all given to you and supported by the university. We're also able to support you in many other ways financially, and I think that's just such a critical piece to what our Northwestern experience is. All right, so I've probably gone longer than I even meant to, and I'll now get to the questions and answers from our students. So I'm very excited again to begin these, and I'll call out some of these first ones, and we'll get started. So first one we have here is about resources for international students and kind of transitioning to Northwestern. And again, I know this year may look a little differently, but traditionally, how is that part? Let's give a first start to Karina. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that transition to Northwestern.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite parts about the international community at Northwestern is that we actually have an orientation prior to regular orientation, which we called Wildcat Welcome, specifically for international students. So your first point of contact as an international student when you come to Northwestern, and potentially even your first time in the United States, is a welcome that's entirely curated for the international experience. So you're going to be talking to older students who are internationals. You're going to be meeting fellow students who are internationals in the same boat as you. There are lots of presentations, but also just a lot of time to socialize and really get to know the community, and a creation of a really safe space where you can sort of air your concerns or your questions, and to just sort of set yourself up for success in terms of transitioning to the US. We know it can be a really scary thing to do. So I think Northwestern does an incredible job of making that process as easy as possible. We also have a lot of other resources available. Our international office for more logistical questions is just so amazing. They are there for any question or concern you might ever have. Martin and I are also global Wildcat coordinators. So some of you may have seen us on some other panels or on the website. We literally, our job is to be here as a point of contact for international students, both prospective and admitted students, to sort of talk to them about student life at Northwestern and help them make that transition easier. If you have any questions about travel or what things you should be bringing, or just really any concerns at all about transitioning to Northwestern, we can help you out with that. We can put you in contact with different cultural groups that you might be interested in. And really, truly everybody that's already here is so eager to help our future international community feel as welcome and as comfortable as possible. And it really wasn't something that I was expecting when I was admitted, but I was so pleasantly surprised by it. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Very good, thank you. Here's one for all four of you. And we'll start with Chloe this time, and maybe Chloe, you pass it along. And so it's about traditions at Northwestern. If each of you maybe could mention a tradition, a favorite tradition, something that you've experienced during your time so far at Northwestern.
Yeah, so it's my first year at Northwestern, so I probably have a different answer than the rest of the other panelists, and I didn't really get a spring quarter in person, so there are some traditions I wasn't really able to partake in person. However, there's something called the primal scream that happens right around exam week, and it's kind of what it sounds like. You just at 9 p.m. I think on the Sunday before exam week start. I could definitely be wrong about the logistics. People just kind of scream, and I know it sounds kind of silly. Doesn't take up that much time. It's about maybe 10 seconds of your life. It's just actually really nice stress relief, and it's just kind of in solidarity. We understand that it is a stressful time, but we're gonna get through it. I had only one primal scream so far, and I really enjoyed it. I would suggest that you guys take part in it. I think Martin, you're right below me, so I guess no one can see that, but Martin, go ahead.
So my favorite thing about Northwestern, or the favorite tradition, is Dillo Day, which is actually happening today in an online format, unfortunately. But it's a student-run festival. I think it's even the biggest student-run festival in the US. I'm not sure about that, but I've heard that from somewhere. And my flatmate is super involved in the organization. I get all the inside info, and it's such a fun thing to do. It's just a day where the entire Northwestern community just stops doing whatever they're doing and just enjoys a music festival on the Lakeful. And that's just absolutely amazing.
A tradition I really liked and remember is at the end of Wildcat Welcome Week, when we all get together in a stadium and we all learn the class dance, as they call it. And that is always fun, and it's unique for every generation, which means only your people from your class will know it, and maybe someday in the future, we will dance again. I mean, for sure. And another one I just wanted to mention is our anthem, Alma Mater. It's really, I don't know, it's really something special and moves me every time I hear it, either on a football field or basketball field, wherever it plays. It's something, so unique. Hail to Northwestern. What those words when you come here really start to mean something and really bound to the hearts, I think, of all students.
Yeah, I'll finish this off with more of a niche tradition, because I think it speaks to the fact that within the smaller communities at Northwestern, they are also just ripe with tradition. So one of the things that we have in the theater community is the Dolphin Show, which is the largest student-produced musical in the country. Pretty much everything from start to finish is done by students. And one event that we have every year as a fundraiser is what we call the Rock Show. So at around midnight, the team of the Dolphin Show will have sort of thrown together a musical. So I think last year it was Mamma Mia, and they just come out in the craziest costumes and perform outside in the cold in front of the rock, and everybody else from the theater community shows up and huddles up together and has a blast. And it's a really fun way to fundraise, but also just bring our community together.
Awesome. Those are perfect examples, I think, of the Northwestern spirit. For those of you who don't know, again, our mascot at Northwestern is the Wildcat. It's again, American universities with all these different animals often, or other creatures that are kind of their sports mascots in particular. But here it sort of, I think, goes beyond sports and athletics and into sort of imbibes into all of what we do. get the Wildcat claw, and we do lots of other traditions surrounding that. Big part of it. Speaking of some of that, I guess, well, let's transition to a different way. And since you're on campus, Joseph, maybe you could speak to this first, or maybe only, but depending on that. Just a little bit about, I think, the residential experience, the housing, kind of what that's been like as an international student. I think people are very curious about, moving. I know in a lot of parts of the world, you're not on a campus. Maybe you're living in a flat, again, off campus or things. And sometimes here it's a mix. So if you could speak to that.
Yes. So I am staying currently on campus during this crisis, and I would like to use the opportunity to just say huge thanks to people, who made it possible and just says, and goes back to the point of how Northwestern take cares of their international students. I'm completely able to stay here, and all the resources are available to me. When it comes to different types of residential, let's say places, dorms you can stay, there is a huge variety. So every dorm has its own special vibe, so to say. Some are more activity and more fun related. Some are residential colleges in which you have students mostly going to engineering classes. There are some in which you can take part in the hierarchy of the organization. And so you can change things you don't like. You can propose what you should do as a community. So every dorm is a community for themselves. On the other note, there are different types of communities and the dorms here. There are fraternity houses and sorority houses in which obviously students who partake in Greek life live, and they have communities for themselves. Then if you are really into trying to improve our connection with the nature, there is a greenhouse in which you can show all the other students and all the world how you can be more efficient and how you can save the planet by every step in the day, by one shower and other things you can do, and partake in that. And I think regular dorms as well. Every dorm, even though there are just residential halls, as they call them, each and every one is different. And it is very difficult to understand this through reading the numbers of how big it is and seeing the pictures, because the picture of any dorm of every college are dreamlike. But once you get here, you understand how it goes, and you understand that even though maybe at first you don't like it because you saw some comment on internet, that there is something special about each place that you will fall in love with. And I think that's something very great. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, excellent. Great description. Again, again, I wish I could get back to campus and move into one of those places many times. So it's such a special place. And you're right, such variety. And I think that's kind of rare. Again, there's such a different experience depending on where you are, and it's spread throughout the camp. It's not like everyone lives in one spot, or that first year students only live with first year students unless they want to. So you really have that mix. That's great. Next question I think is exciting, to talk a little bit about the nature of the Northwestern community, in terms of its description of quality. I think one of the things that we often say, and I wanted to see how you feel about this, and Chloe, maybe you can take this one, is how the Northwestern community is described. People want to know, is it collaborative, right? Is this the kind of place where you work together? How does that feel? And what other adjectives might you use to describe the Northwestern community?
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned earlier that I'm in the School of Education and Social Policy, and actually something that CESP, it's the short form because the other one's just too long, is that they really do focus on collaboration, teamwork, supporting each other. A lot of classes are like project-based, and you're put in teams, and you meet people from like all disciplines, different majors, different grades, different interests, everything like that. So it's like collaborative, as people have mentioned. I think it's also very like supportive in the sense that everyone can contribute something different, and like people love the contribution you make regardless of whether or not it comes to fruition. I think I can only speak to CESP, and I don't know, of like another school, maybe like School of Comm, because you guys are like theater and you guys perform and play together. That might be like a different perspective. But as far as I know, I've found it very like nourishing. There's just an endless amount of support, especially from professors too. They're very like sympathetic, and they actually they care about you, not as like a student, but like as a human being, like as a person. And I really appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you. So now again, you spend a lot of your time as a student, of course, but there seems to be a lot of interest in what you do when you're not studying. And I think so maybe we could start with Martin. And if anyone else wants to chime in, but maybe talk a little bit about a couple of things, just again, clubs and organizations that you've been part of or that you are excited to share. And one of you could possibly explain what Greek life means. It does not mean necessarily our Greek students, so that would be helpful to get out there, just explain that. And also as it relates to things that people do, could one of you speak to playing sports when you're not a recruited athlete? So let's start with Martin though.
Yeah, I'm mostly part of cultural organizations on campus, one being the International Student Organization, which is basically what it sounds like. It's just a bunch of international students in a single group. And we plan events together that can range from just like simple parties at someone's house to speaker events or events where we have like a panel discussion with speakers that we invite both from Northwestern, but also from other universities. I remember last year we had several speakers from the University of Chicago coming in talking about, for example, the refugee crisis in Greece or queer communities in Chicago, just so we have like a better understanding of like global issues and global perspectives amongst the international student community. But it's also just a very social group where you can like meet a lot of other fellow international students and just like tag along with them. And that was my first kind of community that I had here on campus. I also work for my department, which is the Slavic Studies department, where I translate poems for a teacher from German into English. And that takes like a surprisingly big kind of part of my week every single week. But it's so interesting because it's just like one of those things that I would have never done anywhere. And I probably wouldn't have gone into translating in my entire life. But it's just an opportunity that kind of popped up, and a teacher just approached me after a class. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? And it's definitely something super, super cool. So does anybody want to talk about Greek life? Because I'm really not part of it.
Yeah, I can talk about Greek life. I'm not a part of it either, but a lot of people I've met are in Greek life. So that's like, I guess I should preface with what Greek life is. It's not necessarily like people from Greece. It's essentially, it's like a group of people who are in like the same, like a society kind of like in high school, maybe at an honor society. Usually there are like sororities and fraternities. Sororities are usually like female, like all female, and fraternity are all males. So they usually focus on like service. It's also like a social group. So maybe you've seen on Instagram, they're like Kappa Delta, 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 Theta, Alpha, a lot of Greek letters. And it doesn't only limit to just like socialization and service work. So there are certain fraternities and like Greek life groups on campus that are only service. So there's, I don't know their exact names, but those are co-ed. There's also business fraternities. So that's more like, they're called like DSP, AK Psi. You can research a lot into this. They focus more on like the business aspect. There's also like multi like national ones that are focusing on that too. So they have themes to it if you want to. So in terms of Greek life, the first point I wanted to make was just because you're in Greek life, it doesn't mean like all your friends are going to be in Greek life. And just because you're not in Greek life, it doesn't mean you're never going to meet them. Their location on campus aren't like in their own secluded corner. They're part of the campus, and you walk next to like a frat house or like a sorority house any day of the week. Along with that, you don't have to join if you don't want to, but if you want to, people are very open to talking about it, and it's very likely that you'll meet somebody in Greek life. So if you want to, you can talk to them about it. And there's just like a place they're your sisters and your brothers. And that's kind of my extent of Greek life knowledge. I can also kind of talk about playing sports outside of like being a not professional, being a official Northwestern athlete. So there are club sports and intramural sports, and there are also gyms if you like working out, like running or whatever. So club sports, they're like a bit higher commitment. They're probably like a varsity high school sports team. So you need to go to practice. You guys have games you guys play. You probably need to try out for it. Some clubs don't, really depends on the sport. And then there's like intramural, which is free for all, anyone, any level of experience can go. And usually they have teams are formed. You can do it through people in your dorm, people in your different clubs and activities, sometimes random group chats, like say like, hey, we need a girl, we need a guy to play this sport. And you can also sign up as a free agent. If you can't like assemble a team, then you just kind of put your name and email out there. And if a team needs somebody, then you'll get an email and you'll be able to play with them. So just because you're not like an official Northwestern athlete, that doesn't mean you will never exercise again in your life, unless you want to, but that's kind of a self-choice.
Okay, let's, Karina, or you were going to talk a little quick about arts, and then or Joseph, you were going to talk about some more. Why don't you follow up on sports first? Because you had some stuff on that, and then we'll go to Karina to end it with a little bit about the art scene.
Yeah, so aside of club, intramural, and gyms, as Chloe mentioned, I trained basketball throughout my life for something like 10 years, and I played it professionally, I would say amateur professionally / in Europe. And so I was looking into something that is more organized in a way, and that can maybe help our varsity teams, which are our professional teams at university. And so, as it happens at Northwestern, I saw a flyer on my dorm about these trials to be a practice player for a women's basketball team. And I was like, sure, why not? Let's check it out. Let's see how it works. And what I saw is that you can join and become a practice player, practice with our varsity basketball women team or men team, and thus help them, and also find yourself on playing on a very high level, I would say, compared to other things you can find as well. If you don't want to an obligation, or if you don't want a weekly commitment, you can always choose club. And in the end, if you just want to do it for fun with friends, buddies from your residential hall, you can do, as Chloe said, intramural. I would also like to mention another student organization that is really big on our campus, that is Associated Student Government. And also throughout my life, I always try to be in an organization that tries to gather all the other smaller organizations and students together in order to improve something we see that needs improvement, or to work on some new projects. And so I ran for the senator at our ASG Senate. And I can tell you that it is really something I never experienced before. Let's say our annual budget is $1.6 million, which means we allocate this money to all the small student organizations. And what amazed me really is how quickly and easily you can propose a legislation, and how quickly and easily you can give funding to something you think is going to be a huge success. And that's what happened, let's say, last year when people and students started this bike company, small bike company that you can use on campus without, it's renting bike company, but you don't need people working. It's just an app and bicycles around the campus you can use whenever you see them, whenever you need them. It's so simple, so easy, such a great idea. And it all got approved in, I would say, a month or even less, with such a small touch of administration that they were not even involved in this. It was completely student run, which is something really amazing. And through the whole experience, I understood how the whole campus works and how all the student organizations, and I was just looking up and trying to find how many are there on campus, but I couldn't find the exact number. But I can tell you there are so many you couldn't believe, because during Wildcat Welcome Week, when there is the huge panel, it's a place undescribable really how many student organizations are there. It's gonna be hectic, but it's gonna be so much fun, because you will find everything you like and everything you always thought of doing. And that's what I think is great about this place. yeah, Karina.
Yeah, I'll just speak really quickly to the art scene. I think we have such a vibrant art scene, and it provides extracurricular activities for people like me who are sort of enmeshed and entrenched in that world, and like that's what we're studying and doing and living and breathing. But it also provides a huge source of entertainment and activity for people outside of that community to come in and watch these performances on the weekends or in any given evening of a week, of weekday. And so we have like a cappella groups, we have theater shows constantly going on, we have comedy troupes, we have dance groups, we have literally anything that you could possibly imagine, and you can get involved in them or go watch their shows. Like I said, I would highly recommend looking it up if you're interested. It's like literally unfathomable how much arts we have.
Yeah, I think performance arts are one of the defining characteristics of Northwestern because of the excellence in the actual academic program. It filters down. And a similar thing, although we didn't talk about it and can't talk about everything, is media. I think you're going to find as a student, you don't have to be studying journalism to be engaged in an incredible media environment, whether that's, again, writing for the Daily Northwestern, being on film, on TV, on the radio for WNUR. There's so many different opportunities to get your voice heard. That's another sort of big bin that students kind of engage in, along with, I think, civic engagement and service. Again, it's a community that gives, and you're going to see a lot of students find outlets in that way. All right, next question. I think this is a great one. A little more back to the academics. I mean, I gave the overview, but from your personal experiences, I think twofold. One is what's your experience with the quarter system, and two, tell us a little bit about kind of that experience in the classroom. I think there's always this concern that it's going to be straight lecture. So tell us a little bit more about that interaction, the type of classes, the size of class with professors. So raise your hand who'd like to jump on one of those quarters or that. Okay, let's start with Joseph. You go for it.
So yes, I would just start by saying something in general about McCormick as School of Engineering. My dream throughout my life was to be at the place where cutting edge science happens, where innovation happens. And something that is really great about this university is that this is exactly the place where you will be taught by the people that innovate things that are cutting edge. And as a scientific mind, you cannot ask anything more than that. And then to add how the whole structure of the classes looks like. There are different classes and courses. Some are more general in a sense, some general scientific, let's say, needs and courses in which you will have something around 200, maybe 300 students. Those are such as chemistry, general physics, general math. But then as you progress in second year, and especially I've been told in third and fourth year, you happen to find yourself in a smaller classes, in classes where you will do a project with 2 or 3 teammates, and where you will develop something for an actual client. And just to add upon this, in our engineering school, this doesn't only happen in third or fourth year. It happened in the first quarter as part of the class that Aaron mentioned, DTC, Design Thinking and Creativity, in which I couldn't believe just how this works and how this whole brain idea is really brought to you immediately. And you immediately see that you will have the opportunity to show your math and physics skills, but also to implement your creativity and design and communication, because you will be directly speaking and working with one of the best rehabilitation hospitals in the world, essentially. And all of this, I just couldn't believe. It was the first quarter and we were already dealing with real people, with real problems, and immediately trying to solve them. Of course, this process takes time, and it goes step by step. They don't immediately give you to do a surgery or something like that. But you start from, let's say, a kitchen appliance in first quarter, but then in spring, in third quarter, you are able to actually produce a medical device that will be used by some person. And this medical device is not something that you just replicate that already exists. Your goal is to try to improve what's already on the market. And obviously for non-engineering people, maybe that doesn't sound fun or interesting, but I'm telling you, for people who care about this and who are interested in this, this is the biggest thing that can happen to you in first year of college. Yeah, so that's about it.
Thank you. Yeah, Martin, how about you? You're different, you're in a very different major, so let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have absolutely nothing to do with numbers or science or whatnot. My biggest focus lies on like humanities, literature classes and language classes. And given that my departments are really, really small departments, like there's a maximum of like 30 people, 40 people in each of my majors, all our classes are actually really tiny, which I absolutely love. For example, my Arabic class varies from like 8 to 12 people every quarter, which is like the perfect class size to really study a language with someone who like is a native speaker and who can teach you every single intricacy. And you can take the time with the teacher every single lesson because there's only 8 of you. So obviously he's not going to be overwhelmed with a big amount of students in the class. Similarly, for all my other classes, I don't think I've ever been in a class that has more than 15, 18 people that I really cared about. So that's definitely a really cool aspect about Northwestern. Obviously, you can end up in like a lecture class, but even then, I've noticed that teachers try to like implement little group activities, little group works, have it like in a sort of half way where they lecture for half the class and the other half is meant for you to work on a project with your group together. So that's a great thing that you can do in the quarter system. And speaking of the quarter system, I'm also a person who loses interest in a very specific topic very quickly. So the fact that classes are only 10 weeks long is absolutely amazing because you do this one thing very intensely for 10 weeks and then you can move on to the next thing. Or if you're really interested in a certain topic, you can take classes that follow up to the classes that you've taken already. And you can just prolong that. So you can kind of like engineer your own little schedule and you can kind of select the topics that you want to do like for a shorter while, or you can select some topics that you can do for like a longer time, up to a year. For example, my Arabic class, I've taken them for 2 years now. They've never gotten boring. I've taken a class on like German science literature. That was pretty disappointing to me. So it was done after 10 weeks. I learned a bunch, but that wasn't my thing. And I could move on fairly quickly without feeling like I lost a whole quarter to something. So yeah.
Chloe, how about you? What's your experience in CESP? Quarters or faculty?
Yeah, so I've had classes where the entire 10 weeks is dedicated to like a group project you're working on. So that's kind of really fun. They're not just, we had assignments actually that wasn't just like turn in this essay, turn this PowerPoint. We had an assignment that was like hang out with your group, like get to know them like on like a deeper level. So there's a lot of emphasis on like outside of just like books and like the classroom. I do want to mention that my CESP is the smaller school when you begin with. And that also means that the classes you take are probably going to be smaller people, less people. I would say about 20, max 25 people in the classes I've taken. I've also taken like a larger lecture hall class, something like Intro to Psychology. I think that's just kind of a class, whatever college you go to, there's going to be over like 200-300 people. So there were about 300 people, but what's also so great is that although there are 300 students, there are like TAs and there's teaching assistants, and like the professor, they have office hours and you can go, and it's not going to be all 300 people going in at the same time. It's going to be like 5-10 people. So although you are in like a big group of people, you'll still be able to have a little bit of like intimacy with questions or anything that you have like maybe struggling a bit on. Yeah, so CESP tends to be like a little bit smaller, just like the specific majors Martin discussed just then.
All right, Karina, and your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to touch a little bit on the faculty component of it because the School of Comm just has some of the most incredible faculty I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I think it's true for all Northwestern faculties that they care so much about you as a student, and not just you as a student in their immediate class, but you as a person going out into the world, pursuing your dreams, pursuing your ambitions. And they really are like so dedicated to helping you in whatever way they can. And I think like the network that we are able to build with people like one of our acting professors started a theater company with David Schwimmer, who you might have seen on Friends. And like one of my acting professors has given us these like incredible plays to read, and then we'll say, oh, actually, yeah, I'm best friends with the author. Maybe he can come into our class when you guys are doing those scenes. And it's just like, they're so dedicated to making sure that you get the absolute most out of the Northwestern experience that you possibly can. And one of the biggest assets that Northwestern has to offer is that network and is that connection. It's just absolutely wild, the amount of people that you're able to reach just because of who you come into contact with on campus. So I think that part of it is just amazing. And also the fact that they're incredible human beings and are there to support you and your personal development as well. My acting teacher always says that his first priority is not to make us better actors, but to make us better people. So.
Awesome, fascinating. I think that really tells you a lot about the Northwestern academic experience, again, because you have students here in four of the 6 different schools. And again, such a crossover in terms of the same type of experiences that they've had, right? But also unique at the same time. So I think that's a great point. All right, I know we're never gonna get to all your questions, but we're gonna give one final question out here for all 4 of you to answer, 30 seconds. And then I'll kind of put together some closing remarks as we kind of near the end of the hour here. Again, we could probably do a whole nother hour and keep talking again, but we don't have that. So we're going to end it with sort of the classic question that we relate to the application in some cases. And you can answer this from kind of a current perspective, a past perspective, the future perspective, however you'd like. But again, the idea of why Northwestern, why NU, what should students be considering, and why, is this the choice for them, whether it's their first choice or, a choice. But I think that's the way to think about this final question as people go off from our conversation today. So if each of you could share your sort of why Northwestern at the moment. I know you all wrote very good ones on the application originally, but again, that can change and develop just as you all have. So let's go with Martin first, put him on the spot.
Yeah. I had 3 reasons to come here, or 3 reasons why I applied, which was I really like public transport. And that was one thing that I really wanted. And we have that here with the L, we have buses, we have the metro, we have like the Metra, which goes further distances. So that's pretty cool. Then I also was really looking for a big city around me, which again, ticks the box of Chicago, which is an absolutely amazing place. And I found it really important to be like financially supported, coming from a lower income family. And that's more than fulfilled with the financial aid that we're getting and with the financial resources that we can apply for, like financial undergraduate research grants and internship grants. So that's definitely something that has been ticked.
All right, let's jump over to Chloe.
Yeah, so when I was applying for college, I literally had no idea what I wanted to do. I had interests, but they weren't really a major. So the one really big thing about Northwestern is like the quarter system and the flexibility. I think I literally wrote this in my essay that Aaron probably read. It was like the flexible mobile walls of Northwestern, because being able to take a class in another school is super easy. And because of how the quarter system works, because you do take more courses than a semester school normally would, or just like in general, you can explore. And just like Martin said, like if you don't really like it, at least and you get to explore, and you're not going in completely like deadlocked on your major. And that was just like a personal preference. And also like purple is my favorite color, so that was like a huge plus for the merch I get. Karina, do you want to go?
Yeah, very similarly, I was really, really drawn to the flexibility. I have like 2 very different sort of passions, one which is more academic and one which is a lot more performance based. And Northwestern was kind of the only school that I identified that was able to give me the highest possible caliber of both of those things without me having to sacrifice or cut corners on any of my interests too early on in my life. So that was definitely a huge draw for me. And another thing is just the Northwestern community and the campus and the lifestyle of it all. Like when I got to campus and visited, just the lake being there and the green, and like everybody was just so incredibly passionate about what they were doing. And it was clear that the entire environment was sort of building to that atmosphere. And it was just really something I wanted to be a part of.
So it's up to me, I guess, to land why Northwestern. And I would say that as an international student, I was completely clueless about the whole system. And so all the universities were just numbers mostly. for me. And I wasn't really able to answer that question then completely. I think my answer was more general and broad, just from my understanding I got from the flyers and the things you could read on websites. But when I came here, I really think I accomplished my dream of being at a place where you are taught and where you have the opportunity to innovate and to be creative and to constantly grow from every minute, every day, and every year. And I think that's really why Northwestern for me. And just to add to that, I was born and raised in a place on a coast, and we have a coast here also, which is lake. It's not as warm, but it's a coast, and I like the peacefulness of the waves. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A great answer. A great answers all around, I think, and genuine. And that's one of the most important things. So hopefully, again, you've all learned a little bit today about Northwestern and the experience of Northwestern. Again, although we may not have the chance to get to you in person, we will try to get to you in many other ways this coming month, and future months online, digitally, virtually. In addition to this session, we encourage you to take a look at our admission website for a whole series of sessions that will be coming up in June, whether it's tours that are going to be specialized, like with STEM focus or arts focus. There'll be other student panels, other information sessions. Again, we've had some other great programs prior to this, which you can still watch if you have access to YouTube and our channel. If you go to that, there's going to be programs on the music scene, kind of the life at Northwestern there. There's going to be programs about eating out in Evanston, so chance to learn about the food scene. So we're doing a lot of things, again, to help you really get a feel for what this place is like. And I think you should be excited to check out some of those. In addition, the posting on Monday will be a series of events for the international community that we will be sharing with partner or universities. So a few of probably the other universities you're looking at around the United States. And so there'll be a series of programs throughout June that you can tune into as well, sign up for. So I encourage you to take a look at that. I'd also just like to sort of say that in general, we're with you in this sort of challenging time. The pandemic has hit everyone hard and everyone around the world. And so we're with you and we're thinking about everyone. And we know that it's difficult. We know that it's confusing, especially as you think about applying to universities. Northwestern has a great leadership team that has set out a website with information about our approach to the crisis. So you can certainly look there. And I believe it's been dropped in the chat. Take a look at what we're doing and how we're approaching the fall quarter. And then also thinking ahead, we'll continue to update that with the decisions as they're made. For those of you, again, applying, know that, again, this is the important time for you. But because we take a holistic approach to application review, you should understand that that process is tailor-built for a moment like this, where we are able to understand what you're doing in the setting that you're at the time you're at. So when things change, we can adapt our process and we can learn and know about what that experience has been for you, make adjustments as necessary. And so we will do that so that, again, you're not negatively affected by the crisis and that you can still apply and still achieve your dreams. So that's our approach, and please know that. So with that, again, from all of us here at Northwestern, all of the students, we hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend and a wonderful college search ahead. We're here for you should you have questions about Northwestern. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Go Cats.